So I'm here with Callie Dunn, who is the Assistant Property Manager at Glendale Fish and Wildlife Area. They are a key partner when it comes to the new Daviess-Martin SISMA, and they're very active in managing invasive species here at the property. Hi, Callie.
Hi, Emily. How are you?
I'm good. What are some of the most common invasives, or the ones that you struggle with the most here?
Our most common invasive species on Glendale are amberbush honeysuckle, autumn olive, and multiflora rose. We also spot treat for Callery pear or Bradford pear and stilt grass.
And now, Fish and Wildlife, you're obviously interested in managing for wildlife. Why is invasive species management so important in improving wildlife habitat?
Because they are invasive, first and foremost, they are not a primary food source for our native wildlife species. They also do not serve our native insects, which means things like quail and turkey that eat native insects do not get food source from these native plants because they don't support the correct insect diet. They also, in dense areas like this, impede movement of things like deer. Now, deer do like some dense understory, but when you're looking at it this dense, it is not beneficial for them.
What are some of the biggest challenges that you run into with managing invasives, and what are some of the tools that you use in managing them?
On Glendale, our biggest challenges is definitely the large amount of acreage that we manage. We have 8,000 acres. Unfortunately, a lot of it is affected by invasive species, whether that be a minor infestation or a major infestation as was present here. That being said, our biggest tools tend to be our large equipment like the pecan or a tractor with a bush hog or tree cutter attached. We also use quite a bit of herbicide to treat them, as this can be a less intensive method of control that can have lasting results.
Now, how are you more targeted in your herbicide use? You're not just like spraying it all across entire fields, right?
Correct. So we tend to identify these core areas that are largely dominated, that we can access from roadways or trails, or occasionally with a boom sprayer on a tractor. However, we only use a boom sprayer on a tractor on a field that is 80 to 90% dominated by an invasive species. We try to use the lowest rate possible to achieve the desired result, and we always go by the label.
Right. And there are some targeted herbicides you can use too, right?
Correct.
That don't kill everything.
Correct. So things like glyphosate are going to attack basically any vegetation that they touch. However, there are some grass-specific herbicides that we can use to target things like stilt grass, or Johnson grass is another noxious weed. We can also apply things like triclopyr or other more targeted formulations.
All right, thanks, Callie. Thanks.
This is an area of understory treatment for invasive species on Glendale Fish and Wildlife Area. Here we want to preserve the overstory stand of trees, but also promote natural regeneration of native species. Before we utilized our large pecan in here, this was largely dominated by Asian bush honeysuckle, autumn olive, and multiflora rose, which is still the case to my right here. As you can see, the pecan is quite a dramatic treatment to this area, eliminating all vegetation non-selectively down to the dirt. Now, this is a really good method of control for invasive species when there is a dominance of your invasives, with little success to be had with herbicide treatments or with selective cutting due to the amount of effort and work required to eliminate the invasive component of this understory. Now, in the following spring, we will come back here and apply herbicide. We may also apply prescribed fire if the conditions are correct, and that would help continue the treatment and ensure that this plot comes back to a native desirable vegetation. Okay, so here we are in Glendale Fish and Wildlife Area in a unit that was treated with our Fecon forestry mulcher last fall. And as you can see, we have some resprouts of autumn olive. This area was previously dominated by a mixture of autumn olive and Asian bush honeysuckle. This is actually coming off of a stump that was approximately 3 inches in diameter, so it's a pretty sizable plant initially. At this time, what we will come back and do later on this spring and summer is we will apply herbicide. Now, for autumn olive, our typical herbicide of choice is triclopyr, since it seems to be the most effective. Now, triclopyr is not as effective on resprouts of Asian bush honeysuckle. For those, we will likely use glyphosate. Another interesting thing we're noticing here is, since this area has been cleared into early successional underneath the standing woods, is we have had a recent invasion of Japanese stiltgrass. This will also require an herbicide application. Thankfully, Japanese stiltgrass is very sensitive to things like glyphosate, so we can use as low as 0.5% mixture of glyphosate to treat this. Now, since it has been introduced, the Japanese stiltgrass will likely require a few successive years of control.